Hello, today we are going through the final part of the Alleyn School Maths sample paper. So let's get straight into these questions and waste no more time. Okay, so here for this next question, we have to try out some different numbers. And eventually, we want to find some numbers that will replace A, B, and C correctly in this sum. So it might not pop out immediately, but let's see if we can understand how this works. So for example, let's say C was equal to 1. That would mean that 1, 1, 1 equals 3. So B would equal 3. But then if B equals 3, we have 3 plus 3 plus 3, which is 9, which doesn't work because B is meant to be 3. So we can see how we're going to have to try out a few numbers for this to work. And let's say C was 4. We'd have 4 plus 4 plus 4, which would be 4, 8, 12. So 2, carry the 1. Now if B is 2, that's 2, 2, 2, which is 2, 4, 6, plus the 1 is 7. But then again, that does not work because B is meant to be 2 and not 7. But if we look closely at this sum, we can kind of expect C to be a number that when we add up these three C's gives us a remainder, gives us a tens number that we can then add on to this column to make this whole thing work. So for example, if we try 8 and C equals 8, then what do we get? We have 8 plus 8 plus 8, which is 8, 16, 24. So 4, carry the 2. And then we have 4 plus 4 plus 4, which is 4, 8, 12. Add the 2 is 14, which works. And then we have A plus A plus A equals B. Now, if B is 4, A would have to equal 1. We have 1 plus 1 plus 1, which is 3. Add the 1 we carried over, which gives us 4. So it's a bit of trial and error. But here we can work out that A has to equal 1, B equals 4, and C equals 8. So 1, 4, 8. Here's our answer. Okay, now here for this final question, part B, we have a challenging question. And we're going to have to tackle this step by step once again, using all the logic and reasoning that we can find within our brains. So for this question, we're asked to find a 4-digit number which is reversed when multiplied by 9. So here we're showing the example of what has to happen. So if the number is A, B, C, D, when we multiply that number by 9, the result should be D, C, B, A. So let's first of all just put A, B, C, D here on the left, okay? These are the values we're going to have to work out, these letters. And let's start by just applying some reasoning and logic. Like I said, this is definitely a scholarship level question or an advanced level question for the grammar school tests, but we can still work it out if we use our logic and we don't give up. So first things first, we have a 4-digit number, and when we multiply it by 9, the result has to be another 4-digit number. What does that tell us about what A has to be? A has to be 1. It cannot be 2. And the reason A cannot be 2, 3, or any number greater than 1 is because if A is greater than 1, let's say it's 2, for example, which would be 2,000, right? Because we have A 1,000, B 100, C tens, D units. If A is bigger than 1 and we have 2 thousands, when we multiply that by 9, we get 18,000, which is a 5-digit number, no longer a 4-digit number, right? And same thing for any number 2 or above. And of course, it can't be 0 because that would no longer be a 4-digit number. So using our logic and the constraints of the question, A has to be 1. That's useful. Now, if A has to be 1, what does that mean? That means that when we multiply this thing by 9, the last number is also going to be 1, right? Because A equals 1. But if that last number is going to be 1, what does that tell us about the last number of A, B, C, D? It has to be 9. And the reason we know that, again, is because we're multiplying by 9. So that means whatever our last number is, when we multiply it by 9, it has to leave a 1 at the end. So for example, if D was 2, then multiplying it by 9 gives us 18 with an 8 at the end. If D was 3, multiplying it by 9 gives us 27 with 7 at the end. So you can go on like this for every single number, and you realize that the only number that gives us a 1 when multiplying it by 9 is going to be that 9. So therefore, the last number, D, has to be 9. But then, if D is 9 over here, D has to also be 9 over here, which again makes sense. So now we have two numbers, A and D. A is 1, D is 9. Okay. Now, how do we work out B and C? Let's see if we can get through this last part of the question. Well, what's going on here? First, we have to realize that if D is indeed 9, then remember, this is 9 units. 9 units. And 9 units multiplied by 9, yes, is going to end in 1. But what's 9 times 9? It's not just 1, it's 81, right? 9 times 9 is 81. And that means that it's not just the 1 unit that we get when we do 9 times 9, but it's the 80 over here as well, or the 8 tens. And that's very important to understand. We don't just have the 1 unit, we have the 8 tens, or 80. And the reason that's important is because if we simply put this 8 here and we say, okay, that's going to be an 8, that would mean that B is 8, which means there has to be an 8 here as well, which wouldn't work, because if B is 8, that means we're doing 8 hundreds times 9, which is 7,200. And adding that 7,200 to our existing 9,000 will take us way over the 4-figure limit, DCBA. So we have a slight problem. And what we have to work out is we need a situation where we have a 0 here. Because only when we have a 0 here and we have a 0 here can we stick to this 4-figure limit. And again, the reason we know that is because let's say we had a 1 here. Yes, this would work in the sense that we have 100 times 9, which is 900. So we're adding 900 onto this thing. But that would be 981, which wouldn't work because we see that this is meant to be 1 and not 8. And of course, this can't be 2, because if it was 2, And we have 200 times 9, that's 1,800, which takes us over the 4-digit limit. So if you're staying with me, we know through process of elimination and also logic and reasoning that this can't be 1. It can't be anything above 1. It has to be 0. There has to be a 0 here. So here comes the crux of this last step. For this to be a 0, and we know we have 8 tens to add to this column right here, we have to think about what this number here is going to be. Because here is still our tens column. So whatever C is, when we multiply this by 9, it has to give us a number such that when we add it onto 80, our 8 tens, it gives us something 0, 1. And the only way that will work is if we add 20 to 80, or we add 120 to 80, or we had 220 to 80. It's only these numbers that when we add them to 80, will give us numbers that have the 0 we need right here, because we know this has to be 0. So now we're thinking 20, 120, 220, 320. What number must C be to give us a value that is something 20? Because if C is 2, for example, 20 times 9 is 180. 30 times 9 is 270. But we want the 20 at the end, right? Because only the 20 we can add to 80 to give us a 0 here. Now, if you're good with your times tables, you will know what number multiplied by 9 will give us a value ending in 20. It has to be 80. Only 80 times 9 will give us 720. And when we add 80 to that 720, we get 800. And that allows us to have 800 here, and then the 1 from 9 times 9. So we had 9 times 9 giving us 81. And then we had the 80 times 9 giving us 720. So 720, add the 80, add the 1, overall gives us this 801, which we're seeing here, 801. Now, I hope you're still with me. I know this is not a very easy question. This is certainly going to be a scholarship level, high level 11 plus maths question. But if you get correct, you're going to get the best results in your 11 plus maths exam. But if you're still with me, first of all, well done. But second of all, this shows us that it's going to be an 8 here from the 801. But again, if it's an 8 here, that means C is 8, and it's an 8 here as well. And just like that, we have the numbers reversed. We have 10899801. So B, back to red, B is 0 and C is 8. So A is 1, B is 0, C is 8, D is 9. If you got this question correct, put it down in the comments. I want to congratulate you because this is definitely a challenging question, but that's how we work it out. Okay, so that is all for today. Make sure you like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so that you're the first to know when the next video is released. And on that note, I will see you all next time.